want is right here. We gon' give them what they came for. We gon' take it up from last year. Shoot 'em my shot, boy, I'm long range. Me and the team on the same thing. Stayed down, never switched up. Only thing changed was...
Hey folks, David Glenn here from the North Carolina Sports Network with my 3 quick things on number 11 seed NC State's 76-64 victory over number 4 seed Duke in the Elite 8 of the NCAA tournament. The 26-14 Wolfpack next will face 33-4 Purdue, the Big Ten's regular season champion, led by 7'4", 300-pound All-American center Zach Edey at the Final Four in Arizona. It is the Pack's first Final Four trip since Jimmy V's Cardiac Pack won it all back in 1983. My quick thing number 1 on the Pack's victory over the Blue Devils. At the biggest parties, when it comes to music, the best DJs know the right times to play the right songs. That is actually the story of NC State's remarkable, unexpected, thrilling, magical 2024 Final Four trip too. Against Duke in the Elite 8 and throughout 9 consecutive victories now at this year's ACC tournament and NCAA tournament combined, 6th-year senior forward DJ Burns and 5th-year senior guard DJ Horn repeatedly gave the Wolfpack exactly what they needed, often at exactly the right time, and it certainly made for some sweet music this week in Dallas. On a night when Duke's All-ACC big man, 7-foot sophomore Kyle Filipowski, had a horrible shooting performance and fouled out with only 11 points, the Wolfpack star big man, 6'9", 275-pound, charismatic ACC tournament MVP DJ Burns once again was the most impactful player on the court. The Blue Devils often tried to defend Burns one-on-one, a tactic that did work well during their win over the Wolfpack in Raleigh during the regular season, but this time Burns was even better. He scored a game-high 29 points and showcased his famously soft shooting touch, his well-developed counter moves against a rotation of Duke big men in the post, and his savvy knowledge of shooting angles, converting 13 of his 19 attempts from the field and making 3 of his 4 free throw attempts. The Devils did try to confuse DJ Burns with double teams more often this time, but it was to no avail. Burns somehow ended up with 3 assists and 0 turnovers, despite being the focal point of Duke's defense for basically every minute he was on the court. DJ Horn, meanwhile, came up with clutch basket after clutch basket and big play after big play against the Blue Devils. When the Wolfpack trailed Duke for much of the first half, Horn helped keep his team close. When the Pack surged ahead in the second half, Horn helped make it happen. And when the Blue Devils tried to rally late, Horn wouldn't allow it. With Horn leading the way, the NC State guards outplayed the Duke guards for the second time in a row and the second win in a row, including that quarterfinal victory at the ACC tournament over the Devils. With Horn and point guard Michael O'Connell taking care of NC State's ball handling duties against a Duke defense that had been playing pretty well lately, the Pack had only 5 turnovers for the entire game. That is about as good as it gets, especially against a quality opponent. With O'Connell more in distributor mode and Casey Morsell more in defensive specialist mode, the exact roles that those two guys, fellow backcourt players of DJ Horn, fit best, Horn was the perfect complement to DJ Burns' scoring prowess, finishing with 20 points on 7 of 16 shooting and 4 of 5 three-point attempts. One very important thing to remember about both of the Wolfpack's now famous DJs is that they have been comfortable with their in-the-spotlight roles through 9 consecutive elimination games, including against some outstanding competition, in part because they are very familiar with being asked to be the man at other times in their college careers. We have a guy famous here in North Carolina who likes to say, if you want to be the man, you've got to beat the man. When it comes to being the man, DJ Horn and DJ Burns have been there, done that, and I mean before they even arrived at NC State. Yes, it helps that they are older and more mature and smarter players than they were as younger guys, now that they're in their 6th year of college basketball in DJ Burns' case, his 5th year in DJ Horne's case. But remember, plenty of older players are never asked to be the Ric Flair style, the man, serving in more complementary roles, even sometimes for 3 or 4 or 5 years instead. In this case, 3 years ago, Illinois State, the school that hired DJ Horne out of high school right here in Cary, North Carolina, Illinois State asked DJ Horne to be the man as a college sophomore. Every Illinois State opponent had Horne as the #1 target on their scouting report. 2 years ago, Arizona State, under Coach Bobby Hurley, asked DJ Horne to be the man for the Sun Devils in the Pac-12, and Horne gained even more valuable experience in that very difficult role against an even higher grade of competition. You can't blend in when you're the man. You can't fall off to the side of the scouting report when you're the man. Similarly, 2 years ago, DJ Burns was asked to be the man at Winthrop. He was the focal point of every defense in the Big South Conference, yet DJ Burns emerged in that league as its 2022 Player of the Year. Kevin Keatts was definitely the first coach to win an ACC tournament with a 7-man rotation consisting entirely of college transfers. Now Keatts is probably the first coach ever to reach a Final Four with a 7-man rotation consisting entirely of major college transfers. Remember, O'Connell just arrived from Stanford this season. Jaden Taylor just arrived from Butler. Muhammad Diarra just arrived from Missouri. Ben Middlebrooks just arrived from Clemson. Casey Morsell has been with the Wolfpack for 3 seasons now, but he previously played at fellow ACC member Virginia. But not all transfers are created equal. When the Blue Devils needed to find players both willing and capable of being the man against NC State, Duke coach John Shire ended up with only one raised hand, or ultimately, better put, one true answer. It was sensational freshman guard Jared McCain, who finished with 32 points in defeat. Meanwhile, Kevin Keatts found 2 guys who stepped up in the moment and a bunch of others who served their roles well. But those 2 guys were DJ Burns and DJ Horne. Like most DJs, Burns and Horne were very comfortable in the spotlight, in part because they had been there so often, both with the Wolfpack earlier this season, but also with other teams long before they got to Raleigh. And they ended up spinning all the right tunes exactly when their Wolfpack team needed them most. In sports, we talk a lot about impact players who make a positive difference. When it comes to our state's economy, the North Carolina pork industry is a true MVP. Each year, the pork industry plays an important role in supporting rural communities across our state. It contributes more than $10 billion a year to the North Carolina economy and supports more than 44,000 jobs. Learn more about their positive impact at ncpork.org. The North Carolina Pork Council, the foundational partner of the North Carolina Sports Network. Quick thing number 2, the Blue Devils, who played one of the youngest rotations in all of college basketball this season, lost their cool against the Wolfpack, lost their poise against the Wolfpack, showed some immaturity against the Wolfpack, and obviously lost the game against the Wolfpack. This pack might have beaten Duke anyway, but the Blue Devils got over-emotional at all the wrong times, let the referees get into their heads, and at times even started pointing fingers at each other. Almost every team that makes a long run in the NCAA tournament faces at least some close games, some stressful moments, considerable adversity, right? Heck, the Pack had to take Oakland to overtime. Stuff isn't easy. When those things happened to the Blue Devils against the Wolfpack, though, the Devils often reacted in all the wrong ways. When sophomore forward Kyle Filipowski, who snapped at the refs, snapped at his own teammates, snapped at his own bench several times during that game, he lost his cool and basically threw a Wolfpack player to the ground. At that point, late in the game, he left the refs no choice but to call Filipowski for his 5th foul, disqualifying him from the game. Refs tend to give all players a little benefit of the doubt. They don't want to disqualify them. When you basically half body slam or suplex somebody, you know the whistle is going to blow. The Blue Devils were down at that point by 12, 56-44, with about 5 minutes remaining in the second half. So it was unlikely that they'd be able to mount a comeback, but they had absolutely no chance without Filipowski, their leading scorer this season. Also in the second half, Duke's sophomore forward Mark Mitchell hit NC State forward Ben Middlebrooks with a forearm shiver, knocking Middlebrooks to the ground and forcing another obvious whistle. Mitchell did just witness Middlebrooks tripping one of Mitchell's Duke teammates in a fast break situation, and maybe he thought it was intentional. But even that is no justification for putting your team and ultimately the game at risk, especially in an elimination game. At one point, when Jared McCain, the freshman, and Filipowski, the sophomore and an accomplished sophomore, fumbled an exchange in the front court with the Blue Devils attempting a second-half comeback, they snapped at each other very visibly before running back on defense. That re-raised some questions about that weird two-game stretch where the Devils guards were so bad on senior night against the Tar Heels in losing to UNC, and then they were so bad again in losing to NC State up in Washington, D.C. at the ACC tournament. We don't always know what's going on behind the curtain, but those kinds of back and forths between players very publicly suggest that maybe there is something between the veterans and the freshmen. Maybe there is some uncertainty or somebody is upset about somebody else's role. When McCain and Filipowski had that exchange, it only underlined those sorts of questions further, even if we're still not sure of the answers. All night long, what we do know is that the Blue Devils spent a lot of time complaining to the referees. Most teams and most players do that occasionally. But when it comes a borderline obsession, it's tough to have enough energy left, the type that's required to beat a quality opponent, such as, in this case, NC State. The Blue Devils were the only team in the ACC this season and one of the only top 25 teams in the entire country this year who played most of the year with 6 of their top 7 players being freshmen and sophomores. It was everybody except senior guard Jeremy Roach. I know the veteran Ryan Young played a lot of times, but for most of the season, he wasn't in their top 7. In an era when college basketball has rarely, if ever, had more experienced rosters or more 23 and 24 and 25-year-old players out there, Duke's extreme youth, inexperience, and eventually immaturity did not hurt them as often during a very solid 27-9 campaign. But against older and wiser and red-hot NC State, those things contributed heavily to the Blue Devils' second-half collapse when they were outscored 55-37. And those things ultimately led to the Devils having their season end in miserable fashion in Dallas. Michael Berard, Managing Director Investments with the Founders Group at Stifel, works with a select group of high net worth individuals and institutions to develop and implement investment plans tailored to their specific objectives and risk tolerances. If you are interested in highly personalized, well-researched guidance and outstanding personal service, you can contact Michael at 984-364-2002. That's 984-364-2002. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE. Quick thing number 3. Let's recognize and celebrate the truly extraordinary nature of what the Wolfpack has done here. The last 4 teams standing are UConn, a number 1 seed, Purdue, another number 1 seed, Alabama, a surprise Final Four team, but still a 4 seed, and NC State, a lowly number 11 seed. I offer that contrast in part to illustrate the true rarity and perhaps even the March Madness style insanity of what is happening right before our eyes. The NCAA tournament, remember, has been around since 1939. And while the tournament officials did not start seeding the entire field until 1979, there have been only 6 teams ever that entered the big dance as a number 11 seed, as this year's Wolfpack did, and then made it all the way to the Final Four. Those are the lowest 6 teams seed-wise ever to make the national semifinals, because no number 12, no number 13, no number 14, no number 15, and no number 16 seed has ever made the Final Four. And I would not expect that to change anytime soon, even in an era where so much has changed in college athletics and college basketball. Keep in mind that even the Cardiac Pack of 1983, while one of college basketball's greatest Cinderella stories of all time, that pack entered the tournament as a number 6 seed, suggesting a much higher level of respect from the selection committee for both their regular season body of work and, let's face it, their potential in the NCAA tournament. Nobody lower than an 8 seed has ever won the national championship. But again, only 6 number 11 seeds, including this Wolfpack, has ever made the Final Four. This pack, one of those 6. LSU did it under legendary coach Dale Brown way back in 1986. George Mason did it in 2006 under coach Jim Larinaga, who became an ACC coach at Miami, of course, 6 years later. VCU did it under Shaka Smart in 2011, inspiring the Wolfpack, remember, to try to hire him 13 years ago, a story I explored after the Pack's recent victory over Shaka Smart and his current team, Marquette. Smart ultimately turned his VCU success, including that Final Four trip in 2011, into the Texas job before later taking over at Marquette in the Big East. Loyola Chicago did it in 2018 under coach Porter Moser, who's now the head coach at Oklahoma in the Big 12. UCLA did it in 2021 under Mick Cronin as their coach. Now Kevin Keatts and the 2024 NC State Wolfpack just added their names to that very short list, and that should be celebrated as the truly awesome, with a capital A, baby, accomplishment that it is. We'll have a lot more on this special story here on the North Carolina Sports Network in the coming days as the Wolfpack prepares for its Final Four matchup against 7'4", 300-pound All-American center Zach Edey and the Big Ten regular season champion Purdue Boilermakers. For now, though, let's just say that regardless of what happens in Arizona at the Final Four, this year's Wolfpack has given all of us one of the most thrilling, unpredictable, fun-to-watch rides to the Final Four in the 86-year history of the NCAA tournament. I'm David Glenn. Thanks for joining us on the North Carolina Sports Network. Please find more of our work at ncsportsnetwork.com.